Hello everyone, my name's Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. In this video we are carrying on with our look at the lore of Warhammer Fantasy to prepare ourselves for the old world. Now, oh my goodness, the storyline gets absolutely crazy in this episode. You have to remember that I have no idea what's going to happen in each episode until I start recording it. So you're more or less seeing me reacting to something that I've read very shortly before I'm doing this. So I have no idea what's going to happen in each episode. It's really exciting for me, and as I said in the first part, the idea of these videos is that we're learning the lore together. So yes, there are people out there who know far more about this than me. It's a 30-year history of lore at least, and I'm only really getting into it properly now. So the timeline, we are still way back in the ancient history, nowhere near the current year. We had the Great Cataclysm last episode, which was absolutely horrendous, a billion demons bursting out onto the old world. We had Aenarion, the champion of the elves, stepping into the sacred flame, and he basically became this chosen champion with a kind of divine right to rule. What I didn't realize last episode was that was actually almost 1,000 years after the Great Cataclysm happened, and we also had the colonization of the World's Edge Mountains by the dwarfs. So yeah, we'll keep building up the timeline as we go, but really we're looking around this region here at the moment, especially the ritual that occurs between -4460 and 4420. So we had the billion demons invading, and things ended with Aenarion losing his wife and his children. Now where this story picks up is basically Aenarion being in a state of total grief. As you can imagine, he is devastated by what he's lost, and he's also painfully aware of the fact his race is on the brink of destruction. So where do we go from here? The first thing is he gets on his mighty dragon in Dragnir. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. I'm probably getting it wrong, but whatever. He gets on his dragon and he flies to a place called the Blighted Isle. So here's Ulthuan. If you zoom in on that map, you've got the Blighted Isle right at the top to the north, and there's a place there called the Shrine of Khaine. Now, Khaine is basically the god of murder of the elves and is particularly unpleasant, and in that shrine, he's left his sword, which is called the Sword of Khaine. So there's the sword, there is a representation of Khaine himself, here's Aenarion, and here's his rather cool looking dragon. So he flies off to this shrine and he intends to take this sword, even against the advice of this guy Caledor, who's a really powerful sorcerer, or archmage even, but he doesn't listen. He goes and takes the sword, and the problem is that that sword is never intended for the hands of mortals. By taking the sword, he is damning himself, but he doesn't care. He wants to defeat these demons no matter what the cost is. He kind of feels like he's already lost everything anyway, and he's kind of stuck in a decision of either damn himself or die along with the rest of his race. But by taking this sword, he essentially becomes all but invincible. He becomes a truly terrifying force of destruction, and the demons cannot stand before him. He literally sweeps aside the entire demonic invasion. So literally, this sword is so powerful that that first army of demons is crushed by the power of Aenarion wielding this sword. Like, everyone is scared of Aenarion at this point, whether you're immortal, whether you're mortal, it doesn't matter. They're terrified of him. He's a whirlwind force of death, basically. And as well as being a champion of the elves, he's also now like a conduit for Khaine to wield his rage through Aenarion. He places a curse on his people that's going to plague them for pretty much the entirety of this storyline. He's the one who places the seed of corruption into the High Elf race. So this is where we're introduced to some of my favourite characters in Warhammer, and again, they're characters that I know a little bit about, but there are enormous backstories to these characters. So years after he defeats this first demonic army, the demons haven't been crushed entirely, but they've temporarily been driven back. This is when he remarries, and his new wife is called Morathi, which is this woman here. Now, with Morathi, he has another child who is Malekith. These two characters ultimately become leaders and really prominent characters of the Dark Elves, and Morathi in particular is one of my absolute favourite characters. She becomes known as the Hag Sorceress. She's corrupt corrupting the courts in Ulthuan. She ends up founding all of these secret cults and corrupting loads of the elves. She's an all-round fairly unpleasant piece of work. Now, you can guarantee that these characters are going to be returning and they are going to be absolutely major in this lore series. Now, during this time period where he's been married to Morathi and he's had his son Malekith, things start basically poisoning for the High Elves. There's corruption, there's cults, there's dark magic happening, and Aenarion is still very much under the influence of the Sword of Khaine. So anybody who defies him in any way whatsoever, he mercilessly destroys them, and the rest of the High Elves are starting to really get concerned. But before anything can really happen about that, not that anyone could probably stop him, there is another enormous demonic invasion. So the problem is that basically all the while the winds of magic are surrounding the old world, there's so much magic energy going on that demons can basically materialize at will based off of that magic. So it's this guy who we were introduced to earlier, Caledor, the great archmage, who devises a plan. What he wants to do is drain all of the swirling magic around the old world, particularly all of the magic that's coming out of the top of the world where that gate exploded, and he wants to funnel it back into the realm of chaos so that he can kind of dissipate that energy. And if he can manage to do that, then there's not going to be enough magic and energy for these demons to sustain themselves properly. But the problem is this ritual is so dangerous that if he gets it wrong, he is going to destroy every living thing on the planet. But the second demonic invasion is so bad that they have no choice. They have to accept this option. It's the last chance they've got. So Caledor and his acolytes, they repair these kind of ancient standing stones in the center of their island, and they begin the ritual that will start to create this vortex that's going to dissipate these terrible energies. At this point, that energy is being concentrated so much and magnified that even non-magical people can actually start to see the actual vortex itself. So it's right here on the Isle of the Dead where an enormous battle ends up occurring. You couldn't even count how many demons there were. They're stretching as far as the eye can see. The elves are desperately holding them off whilst we're waiting for Caledor to try and finish his ritual. And fortunately, it succeeds. He manages to create this great vortex. What it does is it draws the essence of chaos away from the world. It describes it here as almost like drawing poison from a wound. Now, to finish off this episode, we have to look at what becomes of Aenarion. Whilst the Battle of the Isle of the Dead is occurring, and slowly the mages with Caledor are giving their lives to make sure this ritual is successful, Aenarion ends up in battle with 4 of the greater demons of chaos. There's a greater demon of the chaos god Nurgle, there's another one for the chaos god Tzeentch, one for Slaanesh, and one for Khorne. So greater demons are immensely powerful. A normal weapon is not even going to touch them. You need something mightily magical to destroy them, and even then they're not really destroyed. You kind of temporarily banish them and they can come back later on. But at this point, Aenarion, having the power of Khaine flowing through him and the Sword of Khaine, he's able to fight this battle that no mortal should have been able to fight. So first he fights a Lord of Change and he literally beheads it. So goodbye Lord of Change. And next he spins around to fight a Keeper of Secrets, one of the greater demons of Slaanesh. Unfortunately for him, that demon is even faster than he is. It picks him up and it literally crushes his ribs like glass. So at this point, Aenarion's fate is fairly sealed. Things are looking horrendously bad for him. But as this demon is crushing the life out of him, he manages to plunge the Sword of Khaine into its heart and vanquish it. The next thing to die is the Great Unclean One, the greater demon of Nurgle. This one is actually incinerated by his dragon, which is pretty cool. You've basically got these white hot flames that incinerate that greater demon, so he's gone. And then finally he comes up against the greater demon of Khorne, and I'm not sure how, but he manages to defeat it even with all of his ribs basically broken. I guess that's a testament to the power that's flowing through him at this point. But having defeated those 4 greater demons of chaos, he has one last thing to do, and that is to get rid of the sword and try and end the curse of Khaine. Now, unfortunately for Aenarion, as he he managed to defeat the greater demon of Khorne, the Bloodthirster. It struck out with its axe and dealt his dragon a fatal blow. So unfortunately, Draugr is going to die at this point. But Aenarion hops onto his back and together they fly back to the Blighted Isle. Unfortunately, that journey finishes off Draugr and he dies on the shore of the isle. Aenarion is in a really bad state at this point, but he manages to get back to the Shrine of Khaine and he thrusts his sword into the altar of Khaine, right in the middle of the shrine. And he's hoping that that is going to end the curse for him. What happened to him at this point, we have no idea according to the storyline at the moment. It just says that his body is never found. But in that final moment, the power of chaos is undone. Caledor's ritual has been successful. In Lustria, where the lizard men were fighting the demons just fade away. They're gone. The dwarves, which had settled in these mountains here, the World's Edge Mountains, they were basically preparing their final stand against the demons and they would have lost. But all of a sudden, those demons fade away too and they're standing there in bewilderment. And the Empire of Man fortunately managed to just about endure as well. So we've seen the sacrifice of some of the greatest heroes that the old world had ever seen, but finally there is stability and hope in the world. And it ends things off by saying, for a time at least. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. What an amazing story. I'm so hooked on this lore. It's absolutely amazing. I really had no idea that it was this good. I mean, don't get me wrong, Gotrek and Felix at the moment are the best books I think I've ever read. I'm totally addicted to them. But yeah, don't forget to smash the like button to show me that you like this series and you want me to continue. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. Share this video around because I really want to keep it going. Flicking through the book, it looks like we're going to be looking at the time of the Sundering, the War of the Beard, and then the Goblin Wars coming up. So hopefully lots of exciting stuff. I mean, if this series is carrying on the way that it started, then I can only imagine really exciting things happening. But anyway, I'm going to leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys really soon.